You ever have one of those moments where the whole room's laughing at you, and all you can do is stand there, heart pounding, knowing they've got you all wrong? That's where Emily Carter found herself, sprawled on the mat at Pinnacle Martial Arts in Philly, her breath knocked out, while her instructor, Derek Voss, loomed over her with a smirk that could curdle milk. "Yoga's down the street. Sweetheart, this ain't your scene," he said, his voice dripping with condescension, as his students snickered, some pulling out phones to capture the moment, the kind of video that'd haunt you online for years. Emily wasn't your typical gym newbie. She was a former Army medic, 3 tours in Iraq, hands steady enough to stitch a soldier's wound under fire, but nobody in that fancy converted warehouse in Center City knew that. They saw a quiet woman in a baggy GI, her dark hair pulled back, nothing flashy, nothing to suggest she'd spent years teaching combat skills to recruits. As she got up, brushing off the fall, her dog tag slipped out, glinting under the fluorescent lights, but Derek was already turning away, preaching to his class about knowing your place. Emily's eyes met his for a split second, calm, steady, like she was sizing up a target, and then she tucked those tags back under her collar, saying nothing. That silence, though, it wasn't weakness, it was the kind of quiet that hums with something dangerous, something nobody in that room was ready for. Let me take you back to how Emily ended up here. She lived in a no-frills apartment in Fishtown, a gritty corner of Philly where the neighbors kept to themselves, and the walls were so thin you could hear the guy next door arguing with his TV. She liked it that way, nobody asking questions, nobody prying into why a 32-year-old veteran kept her life so sparse, just a second-hand couch, a table, a shelf of medical journals, and a faded photo of her dad, a retired Army sergeant, in his dress greens. Those dog tags she wore, his, a reminder of the man who taught her to keep her eyes on the mission, no matter what. Emily had been out of the Army for 5 years, discharged after a Humvee rollover in Mosul left her with a shoulder scar and nightmares that woke her before dawn. She'd pour black coffee, sit by her window watching the city stir, and try to drown out the memories with the hum of early morning traffic. By day, she worked as a physical therapist at the Liberty Veterans Clinic in Kensington, helping guys and gals who'd seen the same kind of hell she had. She never told them she'd served, didn't need to. She just got it, you know? The way a vet's eyes glaze over when they talk about the past, or how a limp isn't just about the leg but the weight they're carrying up top. Her colleagues respected her for it, called her the quiet fixer, but they didn't know the half of it. After her divorce, her ex, Mike, couldn't handle her restless nights or the way she'd shut down when things got heavy. She needed something to ground her. That's when she found Pinnacle, a high-end martial arts gym with a reputation for turning out champs, and a price tag that made her wince. But Emily wasn't here for trophies. She wanted the discipline, the focus, the feeling of control she'd lost when she left the service. From the jump, Derek Voss, the head instructor, had her pegged wrong. A washed-up kickboxer who never quite made it to the big leagues, Derek wore his black belt like it was a badge of royalty, expecting everyone to bow just a little lower when he walked by. When Emily signed up, he gave her a once-over, his lip curling like she was some soccer mom looking for a workout fad. "We don't do Zumba here," he said, half laughing, as if her showing up was a personal insult. Emily just nodded, paid the fee, and showed up to beginner classes 3 nights a week, keeping her head down, learning fast. Her body remembered the combat drills from her Army days, leverage, balance, timing, it all came back like muscle memory. But she didn't flaunt it. She let Derek and the others underestimate her, let them think she was just another newbie tripping over her own feet. It wasn't long before that got her noticed, and not in a good way. A few weeks in, during a partner drill, she quietly corrected a guy's grip, nothing showy, just a quick tip to keep his elbow from locking. Derek overheard, his face twisting like she'd spit in his coffee. "Think you're running this place, Carter?" he barked, loud enough for the whole class to turn. "Maybe you should teach the class, huh?" The room laughed, and Emily felt that familiar heat creeping up her neck, but she apologized, stepped back, and let it slide. That was the moment Derek decided she was a problem, not because she was bad, but because she was good, too good, and he didn't like anyone stealing his spotlight, especially not some unassuming woman who didn't kiss up to him. Things escalated from there. Derek started singling her out, using her as the example of what not to do in every class. One night, he called her up for a demo in the advanced class she'd just qualified for. said he was going to show a defense against a bigger opponent. What he did instead was sweep her legs with a force that sent her crashing down, the air whooshing out of her lungs. The class erupted in laughter as he stood over her, saying, "This is why you stick to spin class, Carter." Phones were out, recording, and Emily could feel the eyes on her, the whispers, the smirks. A younger student, Jenna, leaned over and muttered, "What's a PT chick doing trying to play tough?" Emily got up, tucked her dog tags back in, and bowed to Derek like nothing happened. "Thanks for the lesson, sir," she said, her voice steady, but inside, something was burning. The humiliation didn't stop at the gym. Printouts of that takedown video showed up on the gym's bulletin board, labeled Epic Fail. Students started avoiding her as a sparring partner, saying they needed someone who could keep up. Her gym bag got moved to the corner by the locker room trash cans, a little jab at her place in the pecking order. Outside the gym, it followed her too. At a local deli, she overheard two Pinnacle guys laughing about her pathetic armbar attempt, not realizing she was right behind them. The cashier, a kind older woman, slipped her an extra coffee and whispered, "Don't let those jerks get to you." Even at work, things got weird. One of her regular patients, a retired cop, asked for a new therapist after seeing the video online, saying he didn't trust her judgment. Her landlord caught her practicing moves in the courtyard and snapped, "Keep that fighting crap outta here, families live here." And then there was the text from Mike, her ex, "Saw your little stunt online. This is why we didn't work, you never know when to quit." She deleted it, but it stung. The gym hit her wallet hard too. The owner, Victor Hayes, a slick businessman who cared more about profit than punches, called her into his office after the takedown incident. "Emily, we've got concerns about your fit here," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, surrounded by photos of him with UFC has-beens. Pinnacle's about excellence, not participation trophies. He suggested she switch to the women's beginner class mornings only. Of course, and oh, by the way, there's a new $75 monthly fee for advanced students. It was a clear move to push her out, but Emily didn't blink. "I'll cover the fee," she said, her voice flat, and signed his shady waiver giving Pinnacle rights to use her image for marketing. She knew what that meant: more humiliation, more videos, but she signed anyway, her signature as steady as her resolve. What nobody at Pinnacle knew was that Emily wasn't just taking their crap and going home. Twice a week, she trained at a community center in Kensington with Staff Sergeant Marcus Tate, a former Army buddy who'd spotted her at the VA clinic. Marcus was a grizzled vet, half his leg gone from an IED, but he still moved like he could take on a room. "Carter, you're wasting your skills at that yuppie gym," he told her one day, his eyes catching the way she carried herself, like she was still on a mission. When she mentioned Jiu-Jitsu, he grinned. "Come train with my chrono egos, just work." Under Marcus, Emily's skills sharpened moves Derek could only dream of pulling off cleanly. Marcus saw her strategy, keeping her real ability under wraps at Pinnacle. "Let him sleep on you," he said, chuckling. "But there's a time to show him what's up. Pick your moment." That moment came at the Philly Open Martial Arts Tournament, a big deal regional comp that drew fighters from all over the Northeast. Pinnacle always sent a stacked team, with Derek strutting around like he owned the mats, usually placing top 5 in the black belt division. Emily signed up for the women's blue belt bracket, even though Derek refused to promote her past white belt, another way to keep her down. When he saw her registration, he lost it, cornering her in front of the class. "You trying to make a fool of yourself and this gym, Carter?" he spat. "You're not ready for this." Emily just looked at him, calm as ever. "I'd like to test myself, sir." He tried to pull her registration, but it was already locked in, fees paid, no takebacks. Derek was furious, but he couldn't stop her. Tournament day, Emily woke up early, sitting on her bed, holding her dad's dog tags, running her thumb over the embossed name, Sergeant Daniel Carter. He'd died of a heart attack a year before her injury, never seeing her struggle to find her place outside the Army. "Eyes on the mission, Em," he'd always said. She tucked the tags under her GI and headed to the convention center. The Pinnacle team was there, huddled around Derek like he was giving a halftime speech, but they froze her out. Jenna, the same one who'd called her a PT chick, smirked and said, "This is for real competitors. Emily, wait over there." Emily didn't argue, just found a corner to warm up, stretching and breathing like she was prepping for a patrol, not a match. Then came the bombshell. A loudspeaker crackled. "Attention, men's black belt division, we have an opening due to a withdrawal. Emily Carter, please report to registration." The Pinnacle crew went dead silent, jaws dropping. Derek stormed over to the officials, face red, shouting, "This is a mistake. She's a white belt, not black belt material." The director, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard and a lifetime in the game, didn't flinch. Ms. Carter's credentials were verified by Staff Sergeant Marcus Tate, a certified instructor. "She's eligible as an alternate." Marcus stepped up, his limp barely noticeable, and laid it out. Carter was an Army combat instructor, top of her field. "She's more than qualified." The crowd buzzed, Pinnacle students whispering, piecing it together, her steady hands, her quick learning, the dog tags. Derek's face was a mix of shock and rage. "She's never shown that level here," he snapped, but the director shut him down. "She's in, Mr. Voss. And per the bracket, you're her first opponent." You could have heard a pin drop. Derek, the big shot black belt, against the nobody he'd been dunking on for months. The crowd swelled around their mat, phones out, ready for what they thought would be a slaughter. Emily shed her jacket, revealing arms lean and scarred, nothing like the soft newbie they'd imagined. Derek tried to play it cool, but his eyes were tight, nervous. The whistle blew, and he came at her hard, grabbing her collar, trying to bully her into submission. Emily didn't flinch, just moved, smooth as water, slipping into a sleeve drag, setting up an arm guard like it was second nature. Before Derek could react, she had his arm locked, her grip unrelenting. 14 seconds. That's all it took for him to tap out, his face purple, the mat slapping under his hand. The crowd went quiet, then exploded. 14 seconds, someone yelled, checking the timer. Derek scrambled up, no handshake, just stormed off, shoving past his stunned team. Emily didn't gloat, she bowed to the ref, to the judges, and walked off, calm as ever. Marcus met her with a grin, clapping her shoulder. "Your dad would have loved that, Carter." She touched her tags, a flicker of emotion breaking through her stone face. She didn't win the Division A Pro with a decade on her, took the semifinals, but her performance turned heads. Videos of that 14-second armbar went viral, and with them, stories about Derek's bullying, his petty power trips. Other students came forward, spilling about how he'd targeted anyone who challenged his ego, especially women. Victor Hayes, smelling the PR nightmare, suspended Derek, pending review, but everyone knew it was damage control. Pinnacle's shiny reputation was cracking. Emily didn't stick around. She quit the gym, got her last membership fee refunded, and poured her energy into something bigger. At the VA clinic, she pitched a program blending martial arts with physical therapy for vets with PTSD and injuries. The director, blown away by her tournament buzz, gave her space and funding. Her classes filled up fast. Vets who'd felt broken found something in her teaching, something about reclaiming control. One student, a former Marine named Tara, told her after a session, "You get it, Emily. It's not just moves, it's about taking back what the war stole." Derek tried to fight the narrative, claiming Emily had cheated by hiding her skills, but it fell apart when more students spoke out. His suspension became permanent, his black belt status under review. One morning, he showed up at Emily's regular coffee spot, spotting her at the counter. "You set me up," he hissed, loud enough for the whole place to hear. "You played weak to make me look bad." Emily didn't turn, just stirred her coffee, and said, "I didn't hide anything, Derek. You just never looked." She walked out, leaving him standing there, his ego in tatters. Months later, Emily's program was thriving, expanding to 2 more Philly locations with VA and community grants. Marcus joined as her co-instructor, his gruff humor balancing her quiet focus. Jenna, of all people, showed up one day, head down, and apologized. "I was wrong about you," she said, fidgeting. "Can I help out here?" Emily let her volunteer, teaching her how to work with trauma survivors, and Jenna ended up studying therapy herself, inspired by Emily's example. On the anniversary of her dad's death, Emily drove out to his grave in Lancaster, laying a stone and a photo of her students, vets like her, finding their way through her classes. As she stood there, an old man approached, leaning on a cane. "You're Dan Carter's kid, right? The one teaching vets in Philly?" he asked. "I'm Tom Grayson, served with your dad in Desert Storm. He pulled me out of a burning truck once, never made a fuss about it. You've got his heart, kid." Emily smiled, the words settling something deep inside her. Emily's story isn't about that 14-second armbar, though her students still call it the Carter snap and laugh. It's about what it takes to keep going when everyone's telling you to quit, when the world's screaming you don't belong. She didn't need to shout her worth, she showed it, quietly, relentlessly, and changed lives in the process. So what's your fight? What's that moment where you've got to decide to stand up, even when the room's laughing? Drop it in the comments, I want to hear your story. And if Emily's fight hit you like it did me, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep sharing stories of people who prove the underdogs got the loudest bite.